Let's get some insight now from the Executive Director of UNICEF, who joins us from the UN in New York. She is Veneman, who's just returned from Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining us. And Veneman, I understand that you met President Mugabe, a rather rare event, it has to be said. Tell us what you thought of his reaction to the cholera crisis. How seriously does he really take it?
Well, I think that clearly they understand that there is a crisis in many parts of the country. He recognizes that cholera is a problem not under control, that the sewer systems are collapsing, the water systems are collapsing. There is a lack of power there, but we engage the issues. But in many ways, he blames it on the international community for embargoes, for not being of assistance. There's little sense of responsibility that the government itself is responsible for what's going on.
And do you see that as a problem, that President Mugabe is still blaming the outside world for this crisis in his country?
Well, absolutely. But I think that, you know, it's the people who suffer, and you can put blame many places, and people can play the blame game, but it's the children who are dying of cholera. It's the children who may not have teachers when they go back to school next week. It's the people who don't have enough to eat. Over 50% of the country is now dependent on food aid. This is a country that was the breadbasket of the world, and I think we all have to recognize the very, very big humanitarian crisis that is ongoing there, and do everything that we can to help those who are the victims of this crisis, and that is the people who live in the communities, particularly the children and the women.
So what is it that outside agencies, UNICEF for instance, can do to try and help tackle the crisis, given that the economy is on its knees?
Well, UNICEF is doing many things. One is we're helping support cholera clinics, which are helpful in providing treatment to those who are infected with cholera. UNICEF is providing water purification chemicals, water tanks so that people can have access to clean water, water purification tablets. So in the water sector, we're also going to, in the next 3 months, UNICEF will be responsible for drilling about 100 new boreholes in communities to give them access to clean water. So that's one of the key areas in which we're working. In addition, we're providing school supplies for about half of the schools in Zimbabwe. And furthermore, we're providing support for orphans and vulnerable children. As you know, many, many children have been made vulnerable and orphaned, particularly because of the high prevalence of AIDS in the country. And so all of these areas are areas in which UNICEF is working.
Targeting a number of areas simultaneously. Can I just ask you this, Veneman, do you think that the kind of interventions that you're making, do you think that they are sufficient to turn the tide of the epidemic?
Well, again, it's going to take a concerted effort on behalf of all parties involved. I mean, we also announced a $5 million grant while I was there to help give a stipend to some of the health workers. The inflation rate is in the thousands of percent. It's the highest in the world. While I was there, they announced the issuance of a $100 trillion note, which isn't even enough to buy you a cup of coffee. So when the people that are providing social services are getting paid in local currency, be it the health workers or the teachers, they will not come to work because they're not really getting any value for their services. And this has become a huge problem with the breakdown of the social service sector. And so UNICEF is helping to provide a stipend for the transportation for health workers to hopefully get them back to work and help the people who are so impacted and who need primary health care and who need help with the cholera.
And Veneman, thank you for joining us and explaining your multi-pronged program in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much.